So recently, James Gunn has commented about the DCU, about its confusion, and about where the canon begins. And as every day passes, the closer we get to the end of the DCEU, the closer we get to the beginning of the DCU, it makes me think that every project that was announced for the first slate in this universe just needs to be scrapped, and they need to stick with the Trinity and nothing more. I will of course get into my points as the video goes along, but if you haven't seen or read them yet, I'm going to read you what James Gunn has said. When trying to clean up confusion, he says nothing is canon until Creature Commandos next year, and then a deeper dive into the universe with Superman Legacy. It's a very human drive to want to understand everything all the time. But I think it's okay to be confused on what's happening in the DCU, since no one has seen anything from the DCU yet. There is a huge difference between being confused and theorizing possibilities on what the future could hold. Do not get those two mixed up. It's not fun being confused. It's not interesting being confused. Confused makes you frustrated. It makes you annoyed. It can even stress you out. I don't necessarily think it's okay to be confused in a situation that should not be confusing. And yes, some actors will be playing characters they've played in other stories. And some plot points might be consistent with plot points from the dozens of films, shows, and animated projects that have come from DC in the past. But nothing is canon until Creature Commandos and Legacy. Yeah, clearly it is okay to be confused, because I think you have a majority of people confused and yourselves confused as well. First, it was Superman Legacy that was the beginning, then it's Creature Commandos that's the beginning, then it was actually Blue Beetle that was the beginning, but it's actually Blue Beetle as the first character, his movie's not the beginning, then it's back to how Creature Commandos is the beginning, and Superman Legacy will be the beginning of the bigger scale world, and Blue Beetle will find a way to fit into this universe down the road. But don't worry, nothing is canon from the DCEU other than a couple of stories that might find its way, probably some moments that might make it from the DCEU to the DCU. But it's a reboot, a hard reboot. I don't know. Maybe we'll just do a soft reboot. We'll call it a hard reboot for now. A reboot nonetheless. But it's okay. Be confused. Like, I get it, guys. As comic book fans, as people who are capable of understanding different universes, the fact that in DC Comics, Marvel Comics, we deal with other alternate dimensions all the time. People like us might be able to understand what's going on here, but even then, some of the things he says is worded so poorly. He consistently goes back on his word. One day it's this, the next day it's this. There are even comic book fans who are either getting confused by this or just getting really tired from all of this nonsensical discourse. I have friends and family who love this type of content, superheroes and comic books. It's a huge thing nowadays, of course. And whenever I have to get into discussions with them about what's going on for this DCU, within a matter of 1 to 2 minutes, they're already tuning out of the conversation because the beginning of this universe sounds so overly complicated, overly confusing. With that comes the lack of interest, which is why I don't believe it is okay to be confused with all of this. He says it's okay to be confused with the DCU since we haven't seen anything from the DCU. Meanwhile, there are so many people and plot points from the DCEU that are going to be taking place in the DCU. And I stress this all the time on my channel. Where your money is coming from is the general audience. And I'm telling you this right now, if you are confusing comic book fans with this stuff, if you are losing the interest of comic book fans, you have 100% lost the interest and have majorly confused general audiences. You don't have a general audience to begin with, and stuff like that finds a way to lose more. So look, in a perfect world where the DC universe maybe was as successful as the MCU, they didn't have to worry about how small they had to keep their budgets for their future movies. They didn't have to worry about saving money because they're in a good spot for money. They didn't have to worry about gaining fans and gaining general audiences back. Yeah, sure. Creature Commandos would have been a fun animated project you could have gotten a smaller team to work on that could help fill in the blanks in the cinematic world of the DCU. Swamp Thing, The Authority, Booster Gold, any of those other projects that deal with B or C class characters could be done if, once again, DC was in a good spot and they've gained and maintained the trust of the fans and the general audience. But they simply do not have that. And I thought that maybe experimenting with all their failed films like the Shazam movies, Black Adam, Blue Beetle, and so on would have taught them maybe right now they are in no place to be experimenting with side characters, realizing that the only thing that may make them money and may bring people back to their movies are the big three, the Trinity. And whereas you might say, well, Tyrell, they are doing the Trinity. They're doing the Superman movie, they're doing the Batman movie, and they're making an Amazonian show. Well, that's only two of the three because we don't know where Wonder Woman is at this time. That Amazon show, we don't even know if it's going to feature Wonder Woman. The Superman movie doesn't even sound like his own movie anymore. It sounds like a group film. And then for Batman Brave and the Bold, well, it's hard to even really say anything about it because we have next to no details about that film other than the fact that Andy Muschietti is still apparently attached to it. And I've come to the conclusion that I simply believe starting the universe off with Superman is not the right move. Once again, in a perfect world, in a world where maybe DC has not tried so hard to push a connected universe and they haven't had so many failed attempts, yes, I think you could potentially get away with Superman kickstarting the DC cinematic universe. But right now they are not in that spot. The only character who seems to sell consistently is Batman. Batman should be the character that's kickstarting this world. Even if you want to make a story somewhere down the line where Batman is not technically the first hero, but he's still the hero who kickstarts this universe. Superman's fandom is far too divided right now. You have way too many people who simply don't care about the character in any way. They think he's too powerful, which makes him too boring, or they straight up just think he is too boring. For the people who don't find him boring and want him to be changed in maybe certain ways or a lot of ways, you then have another side of the fandom who doesn't ever want Superman to change and wants Superman to remain the 1960s Superman for the rest of eternity. And then, of course, you have the impact of Henry Cavill, which will continue to hurt the Superman character and the DCU moving forward because you will lose a lot of the viewers due to that decision. With Batman, at least you know there comes some money. Another reason why I would start with the Trinity, like I said, the time for experimentation with DC is done. At least for now. You can try experimentation with other characters again after you have a stable and viable DCU. You will not have that without the established Trinity. And that's why, personally, I would push the Trinity out. Batman movie, Superman movie, Wonder Woman movie, Trinity movie if you have to, which is exactly what I would do if I was making a DC cinematic universe. And then if those movies do not make money, if they don't attract audiences, if they don't interest people, then you know to stop pushing a DC universe. If you're not going to get people to care about your new Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, how are you going to get people to care about the Authority? You know, announcing that Zolo is returning for Blue Beetle in this DCU, what has that really done? Nobody seems to care. When I hear or read discourse on the DCU, nobody says, hey, at least we got Zolo coming back as Blue Beetle in this franchise. That is nowhere near a concern until the Trinity is dealt with. For example, with Zack Snyder's trilogy and what he was planning on doing with his limited and smaller universe, you can argue all day that maybe it was a little rushed, and there are some instances where I agree, there are moments where it is too rushed. But at least you got the Trinity centered, and he tried to portray to you just how important Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were to the world. But then comes another problem. Who are playing the Trinity? You have a new Superman cast. We are waiting for a new Batman casting, yet Gal Gadot is apparently remaining as Wonder Woman. She says she's coming back. The studio and the trades apparently say she's not. She then reiterates she's coming back, and James Gunn and Peter Safran have said absolutely nothing about it. How strange would it look if Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman showed up side by side with a different Superman and a different Batman? The least you could do at this point is just reboot Wonder Woman, and to be honest with you, hard reboot this entire world instead of making a Peacemaker season 2. I do not understand why they look at such a damaged brand and say, hey, let's continue to make things that will only damage the brand even further. As a hardcore DC fan, I probably won't even check out Creature Commandos because it doesn't interest me in the slightest. This is not a DCU. This is James Gunn's DCU. These are simply just projects that he would like to see and things he would like to work on with sprinkles of things he has to do. He has to deal with Batman. He has to deal with Superman. He has to deal with Wonder Woman, even though we still don't know where she actually is within this entire slate. But most of all, it's just his really strange, unknown team-up groups within DC. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Being James Gunn and obviously having some sort of interest in DC, he should be allowed to make certain things he wants. But these certain things, I fail to see how it will progress this universe, how it will reform the DC brand and repair it, and how it will make you money. What can I say, guys? I've seen this IP go down the wrong path one too many times, and I can't help but pinpoint and talk about the things that I personally think is not the right move. So now, guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think and what are some course corrections that you would personally do to try and fix things. But that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. So until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.